Thank you for tuning in for our next episode of our discussion on the TV show Dark. If you haven't listened to the previous 6 episodes already, go and check them out. It really makes a lot more sense to watch them in order. And spoiler alert for Dark. We've talked about 2 time travel devices so far, the Passage and the Bunker. Now we're going to talk about a real time machine that's used in the show. The third device is just called the Apparatus in the show, but we're going to call it the Atom Apparatus because it is created in Adam's reality. There is a separate apparatus in Eve's reality that we will talk about in the next episode. This device was built by H.G. Tannhaus under the indirect instruction from Eve through Claudia to do so. This apparatus is used similarly to the Passage in that it can transport one either 33 years in the future or 33 years in the past. Every attempt at traveling uses fuel, specifically cesium stolen from barrels from the power plant. It also requires a cell phone signal to interact with the device. Once it is triggered, any person and item carried by that person is transported to the desired time and remains in the same place. Specifically, the device creates a Higgs field, increasing the mass of the cesium, and the cell phone signal causes the cesium to implode into a wormhole. The apparatus changes possession many times over its lifetime, ultimately being used by Jonas, Claudia, and many others. The origins of this device are contested because it's kind of part of a paradox, and we'll talk about that more when we dive deeper into the other bootstrap paradoxes in the show. Again, we see this 33-year limit, though, sending someone 33 years into the future or into the past. Of course, it can be reused once you're in that area to extend it to 33 more years in whatever direction you went to, unlike the Bunker or the Passage. But in fact, the Atom Apparatus does give the Bunker and the Passage their power. The apparatus being activated in the Passage will open up the Passage to be able to extend 33 years into the future or into the past. And by extension, the Bunker above will receive that power as well. And closing the Passage also involves using the apparatus inside of it, as demonstrated in the end of the first season. Of course, it was believed that the Passage was the source of the problems, but it didn't end up being that at all, and it was rather the moment in the apocalypse that started all of these loops. Or rather, that was the origin, and the Passage really was there to just complicate things. The cesium used in the device is related to another time travel device that we'll talk about later, and it's used as the fuel in the Eve version of the apparatus, which has a lot of differences from this apparatus, so we'll go over those in the next video as well. I really like their treatment of this device. There are sections where there are multiple of the same device in the same place. It's just one is much older than the other one, being brand new. And this is really interesting to me. If you have a single time machine, naturally it would travel forward and backward in time and pass hands and eventually end up in a place where the time machine was originally. There's almost no avoiding that. And so the interaction that the time machine was finished being built by looking at an older model of the time machine. And by older, I mean something that has existed for longer, even though it was technically the same machine. It's so fascinating that the creation of time travel often is a result of time travel itself. We'll talk a lot more about bootstrap paradoxes later. But I just wanted to point out that that's probably the best thing about this time machine is that it exists for the purpose of moving the plot along, and it can be in any number of places at once because it's a time machine, and of course it can. That makes total sense to use it that way, and I love the use of it. This concludes our talks about the Atom Apparatus, and we're halfway through talking about the time machines in Dark. Next time we'll talk about the Eve Apparatus, the version of this apparatus that exists in Eve's reality, and what differences these two devices have from each other. Thank you for listening.